all of these plans should be integrated into our neighborhood. And I think if you were to draw a map showing all of these plans, they almost all intersect at Virginia-Highland. So our neighborhood is really a central location for so many different planning pieces, and we want to have a voice and an integrated plan how we think all of these plans should work together to benefit our neighborhood.
All right. So we'll move on to the agenda, and I think we're done with planning. So on to fundraising, and Pam.
Okay, well, I don't have all the numbers. We don't have the numbers from Rob yet, Premier Events, so we don't have our beverage sales, or our costs of goods sold from Summerfest, and we don't have all the operational expenses, but I had enough to do some estimates. And I thought everyone would be interested in just a few highlights. I'll get the P&L finalized before the next meeting, and so you'll have it by then. But the bottom line is, I think we're going to have a good shot at bringing in at least 120 net this year, which is very good. We had budgeted, I think, 114. I was being very conservative, and it could come in higher than that. It's just so variable what our beverage revenue is. So. And of course, because of the rain Sunday, we didn't get the benefit of those, late in day beverage sales for the Sunday headliner. And so, we had steady sales Saturday and, a good crowd. So I still think we'll do well. So what I did is our worst year ever, which was that really hot year in 2011, we only sold 95,000 in beverage, and we sold 190,000 last year. It was so good. So you can see the wide variability. So I estimated we bring in 120 for purposes of my numbers I'm presenting tonight, which I think is conservative. I still need to get final race numbers. I still need to get final food vendor numbers. But we did very well this year with our new business model. As you know, last year and 5 years prior to that probably, we partnered with Dave FM, and Dave FM paid us $45,000. They obtained and retained the sponsorship money, but they also paid for all the festival signage, and they paid for the music. And because they changed the format of their radio station, we had to revise our business model. And so this year, we partnered with CBS Atlanta Peachtree TV. They were a TV media partner, and they were wonderful to us. They did everything, at no cost and really very little benefit other than their presence. And that's why I was passing the card around. And then we had a little bit of support from a new station, 105.7, which is kind of coming in trying to take over that genre that Dave FM left when they changed their format. But they're so new, they don't really have many listeners. They gave us some radio promo, and then we spent an extra $5,000 this year on a PR firm, which is an expense we didn't have in years past because we really wanted to make sure our social media was good, and we wanted to do everything we could because it was such a dramatic change in the way we promoted the event that we were worried about getting the crowds out, but we got the crowds out, which was good. And then we hired Rick Kern at Mix It Marketing, who went and got sponsorships for us, and he retained 20% as his fee for obtaining those sponsorships and managing them. And he did very well. He grossed about $112,000 in sponsorships. So the net to us was about $89,000 in sponsorships. And then if you back out some of the sponsorships, we always used to have his neighborhood sponsorships. We gave it to him because we were an extra 100 and he got to manage them. You come up with about $81,000 in sponsorships. That's the real hard sponsorship, dollars in hand that I think Rick incrementally gave us this year. Now if you compare that to, and then if you take the music cost, which was $57,000 all in, the signage we paid for, which was $2,700, and the PR, which was an extra expense that we incurred to make up for the loss of Dave FM, that's about $65,000. So, between the business model this year and the business model in years past, based on those comparisons, we're short about $20,000 to $30,000 based on this new model. But I do think that if we started sponsorships, trying to get sponsorships earlier next year, you know, you could easily make up that 20 to 30,000 with this model. So as long as we can maintain some media partnerships, I think the model's workable. We don't really have any other alternative as we had in the past. But it does prove that the folks who, and I guess this was back in Kevin Crone and Gene Jordan days, the folks who set up that model with Dave FM, that was an excellent model and a good deal for us. We always kind of wondered, remember? So it was very good. So bottom line is we did better on the artist market. We earned about 8,000 more this year than last year, about the same on the road race. I've covered sponsorships. You know, we're just waiting on beverage sales and the cost of goods sold for the beverages, but I think we'll easily do 120. And I'll have more detail next time. Any questions?
Pamela, I have a question. This might be sacrilegious to even ask this, but is the music concert part a key component?
That is an excellent question. That is an excellent question because, you know, we looked at that this year. You know, do we earn that much more incremental beverage revenue to make up for the cost of the music? Because to get the sort of bands at the caliber we've all been used to, it's costly. You know, it's $10,000 for a headliner and $5,000 for a regional band maybe to go before them, and then plus the management. It does get very costly. And you know, that's something we could look at in more depth for future. But my opinion is that if you don't, you know, everything is so synergistic and works off of each other. If you don't have the music, then you're not going to have as many people who do also browse and buy art, and then if you don't have as many crowds coming through your artist market, then the artists might not be interested in coming back, and it just could potentially unravel layer after layer. And so my thinking this year was, so long as we are at least achieving enough revenue to pay for the music and more in beverage sales, I thought that, you know, my thinking was getting the crowds out to support the artist market and all the other things that we do, that was a safer strategy, basically. You know, maybe we can look at cutting back our music. Maybe we don't need two $10,000 headliners, but it's interesting. Our artist market has been built up over years and years and years and years. And the word of mouth in that community is so incredible. The two women we hire who used to run Dogwood, run our artist market in half for the last 5 years, and they're fantastic. They have been involved in other festivals, and many have folded. I mean, it takes a lot to get an artist market, you know this, JD, it takes a lot to get an artist market with the glow and the word of mouth amongst that community to sustain it over many years. And the crowds coming through is a big component of that. And if the crowds don't come through and the artist market fails, then the whole festival fails, is kind of my thinking. So I think we need to keep the music, but maybe there's ways that we can cut down on some of the, we can get good acts, but maybe for a little less money or something like that next year if we wanted to look at that.
Was the concert, I've never been to any of the music. You know, I've gone to Summerfest every year, but I've never gone to any of the concerts, and perhaps I should have gone, but I'm just curious. So the Saturday night concert, the headliner, was that field packed? Was it full?
I wasn't there either, but they typically is packed.
Standing wise, yes. I mean, where the seats and chairs and tables were, it wasn't, but the standing room was full. Yeah, he brought out a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's been part of Summerfest for so long that it's almost expected by the crowds that come. I don't know what it will do to change that. You know,
Yeah.
It's a part of the buzz, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there Sunday afternoon when one of the bands started. They were very good. There was one
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon.
Which one was it? Was it one of the early bands or one?
Yeah, it was at lunchtime.
Nobody ever comes to the early bands, and
I hope I
by the
don't pay much
way,
for them. I want.
they either play for free
That's
or
right.
maybe they get $100.
Okay.
So a lot of that is filler. It's really only the last 2 bands, and sometimes only one of the bands on Saturday and Sunday, and that's when the crowds really come and nobody really watches the other bands.
Okay. They were pretty good. I was.
But yeah, there were some really good ones, and people love to play it because then they can put it on their resume.
Right.
So,
Is
yeah.
there a possibility of the new radio station you said that's coming to build up and be, or be something like we have with Dave FM eventually?
I really don't think so. Their parent company is Clear Channel, and they just don't have that same mindset that Dave FM had with regard to, you know, non-traditional revenues. And we did speak with their sales team when it first came up to see if there was any interest. There was still time, but they are not Dave FM. They just approach business very, very differently. I don't think they would be at all anywhere near as generous and pay us the sort of money that we want. But we can, you know, still, this was sort of our dating period this year, that's what we called it, and we can go back to them and see what the interest is next year, because I just think Rick did such a fabulous job, and he really has some momentum going now, and if he started early, like in January, which is what you have to do, get the Cokes and the, you know, bigger corporate names, we could probably grow our sponsorship revenues by 25%. And by the way, he got us a 2-year deal with Heineken, $35,000 this year, $35,000 next year, already in the pocket. So, and our ground foreman deal was 15 on top of that. He did a really good job.
2 questions. One is 94.1 is not, it seems like they're sort of taking over some of the data.
We talked to them
audience.
and they were interested.
They're not interested. The other one is a comment. I just want to thank you for working so hard with the new model.
Yeah.
I know that it was an amazing.
There's nothing like developing something to where it's really productive and turning out in a way never seen before, and then having it sort of starting all over, doing it all over again.
It really was.
So I thought
Thank you.
it was a remarkable performance.
Well, there were a lot of people helping, I will tell you that. Becker is one of them. He did all the volunteers and always, you know, signs up, signs down. I mean, just any job, this guy. And of course, Ann Guy and Paige Shule were the co-chairs. And everybody helped. I mean, David put up banners. I mean, everybody here was on site. So, and you know, it does take a village. So, but thank you.
All right, Pam, thanks very much. On to the safety committee.
I'll just comment
Go ahead,
from
I'm sorry,
Schumer.
see Angelica, go ahead.
Angelica's not here, but she wanted to talk about tour homes. That they're doing great so far this year. They already have $8,500 in sponsorships, which is great. And it doesn't include vendors from the homes that they will approach once they get the homes all online. So construction folks and all those are really good. They have 9 homes so far to pick from, so they're doing home selection, and that's really good. Last year we struggled with that, so it made it difficult to go ahead and start marketing it and talk to sponsors. So that's great. All the homeowners are excited and willing. There's a great assortment of houses. Restaurants, they already have 3 restaurants online, and that she just feels like she has a great committee this year. Just want everybody to know it's going smoothly. So,
Good.
Excellent. Ms. Bird, safety. How safe are we?
Oh, we are safe. Yeah, safety seems to have been a little co-opted by sidewalks. So the new bundle, the 2013 bundle, we ended up, and this is rounded, but we ended up with about 114 sidewalk, curb, and apron, 114 properties with some form of sidewalk, curb, and apron. We raised $107,000 or so. It's been delivered to the city. The city's been out and remeasured all of them to verify that the amounts of money that were paid were appropriate for the work to be done, and it all matched. So it's been audited, they've been on the ground, and they're now getting ready to deposit the checks because they're comfortable with it. They've got the funds allocated. And so it should move along fairly quickly. The bundle from last year, the St. Charles bundle, should have started today, but didn't, and I believe it's because they were uncertain about rain. So there's nothing except rain between us and construction. So they'll be out there this week. We also, just last thing on sidewalks, I've also been working with the city on their sidewalk policy, and we've put together a series of recommendations for the city, which I'm going to vet with the utility committee. Alex Wan's already been over it with me. And once I've gone through the utility committee with it to start promoting it with the city, I'll ask John to put it up on the website and in the e-newsletter so everybody can sort of see what it's about. And that's sidewalks. Streets Alive has been mostly working on the Peachtree project because that comes up first, but they're very definitely planning an October Streets Alive event in our neighborhood. They're thinking that it'll be North Highland, but they're thinking that rather than using Virginia as the cross street, they might use North Avenue as the cross street. So they're doing a little planning about which streets will actually be closed and for what period of time. So as that comes along, we'll know about it.
Will it stop before it gets us at North?
No. It would still be
Got it.
all linear along North
Got it.
Highland, but the east-west bit would be north instead of Virginia.
Back to the belt line.
Well, it doesn't, you can't get to the belt line with all that.
You'd have to veer off a little. You'd have to veer
That's why
off.
Virginia was a better option, but
And they may end up back in Virginia, it's just a question.
North has some serious hills too, right?
Yeah, that one big hill,
Yeah.
it's really close. So anyway, I don't know, but I'll keep you posted as that moves along.
All right. Questions, comments? All right. Good job, Peggy. Way to go.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, just so we can have it on the tape, we've had recently a couple of requests of the city to fix signs and, just small things that have gotten broken or aren't right, and the city's been really responsive, like very good fixes, kind of coordinating parks and DPW together to get the fixes done, and they've been happening pretty quickly. So it's been kind of a pleasure.
Peggy, I have a question. I don't know if this falls within your sidewalk purview, but the overpass of Cayuga and Virginia, the Beltline runs underneath. The weeds there are always terrible, and I email the city every few months and request weed abatement for that area. Can you picture where I'm talking? Is that the best procedure to email? Truthfully, I don't remember if I email anymore what department it is, but they seem to come out if I email them 5 or 6 times and request weed abatement. They usually take care of it. But that whole Cayuga triangle, Cayuga, Virginia, Monroe, and then of course there are other areas too where the weeds in the curbs and on the sidewalk are really terrible.
My backyard. A pretty good example of that. Seems like I talked to the city about it about a year ago, and their kind of allocation for how often they get to that is every few months. So, they whack it and then it comes back in a couple of weeks and they're not back out for a few months. So I don't think we can get them to come out officially more often. So yes, the answer to your question, we couldn't do it, just keep bothering and bothering and bothering. Probably help if we can develop an individual who's our contact person, if we can find it.
I might have that. I can search my BlackBerry when I come to the meeting, but the person has been responsive that I email, but as I said, I usually email 5 or 6 times, and I wasn't sure if there was just a more efficient way to get them to come out every other month or whatever.
But if you email me when you email them, I'll also email them, and we can kind of split the.
Copy me on that only because we had conversations with ABI about the future of those trees that have not yet been ripped out of there, but which Georgia Power still claims are improperly the wrong trees in the wrong spot, so on.
The trees, they're gone.
Oh, they are?
Uh-huh.
No, I I should go back more often.
Yeah, the big trees were replaced by
Yeah, they were
bushes.
replaced by
Oh,
some trees,
God,
yeah.
okay. Well,
And there's-
Until we're at,
Fencing up to protect it and move the trees.
okay, that's too bad. Well, that was a great chance to address that. That was the time to do that. Just copy me on that. I'd like to see on that. All right. Let's have this afterwards if we could. Yeah. We're going to move on to parks. Lauren?
I just want to let everyone know that we applied for a Love Your Block grant for John Howard Park for a portion where we had some water runoff come down a hill, and people were kind of making a path out of it. It's kind of a little cut through, went up from the lower end to the upper end. And so we did receive a $1,000 Love Your Block grant, and we're going to use as a workday project for that to hopefully put in some rock and logs to help slow down the water that's running off from the top to the bottom and help prevent people from going up there.
Great.
All right. Is there any, thank you very much. Is there any new business for us? Any calendar items?
Not that I recall.
Well, I have one suggestion. Remember when Alice was here and he said that he got that program to repave some of those streets from that AGL mess a few years ago? I noticed they repaved Van Arden in Kentucky. I don't know if any other streets, but maybe in the next voice, we could kind of thank him and
Can you find out?
I can go back and
exactly
get
what's
that
been done?
original list of streets. But I know that at least 2 of them were done and they look really nice.
There may have been others, so let's make sure we don't miss one. If we do write an article, but we should thank him, and that would be highly appropriate. A lot of work went into getting
He was
this.
persistent.
Yeah, he had to be. We do want to, let's remind folks about the date of the AGM, however.
I don't really, it's September 9th.
No, it's not.
So annual,
Yeah, yeah.
No worries.
Spectacular.
It's online, right? It's online.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's September 19th, Thursday, September 19th. It's at, when I just found it, 7 p.m. at Inman. And I think that is it, unless there's any new business. Thanks to everybody for coming and all the work. We'll see you next month. We're adjourned at 8:26.
Like, randomness, and I'm sure they'll clean